And now, let me introduce a person who I've heard speak a number of times. She was with us about a year ago when the primary started, and we were able to offer you a wonderful buffet breakfast. Sorry, Yvonne, we can't do that today. It's not quite the same thing on Zoom. But welcome to you. One of the things I've learned about Yvonne, and I've heard her speak a number of times, she is probably the most down-to-earth, practical politician that I have ever run into. And she is the kind of person who works with integrity to solve problems, to face issues, and comes to this role out of personal experience and growth that helps her understand a breadth of concerns. This isn't just issues. This isn't just a politician. This is a warm, decent human being who wants to expand the ability to serve, govern, and lead in North Carolina. Yvonne, take it away.
Oh, well, thank you. I need to take you with me. How much do I owe you for that introduction? Hello, Rowan County Democrats. I am so excited to be here this morning. I was actually in the car in the beginning because I'm in Wilmington because I have a meeting after this meeting, and driving around, it's kind of like trying to figure out where to go. So thank you so much for having me here today. I want to give a shout out to all of the candidates up and down the ballot, Tasha, Al, Keith, and I hope I didn't miss anybody. I'm trying to see names, but let me say this, and particularly to you, Keith, because you're talking about a rural district and a district that may not be Democratic leaning. Well, I think that we're going to just wipe them up. I think that even if you are able to still win in this election, because the Republicans are just hurting themselves so bad, that I really believe that you're going to have a lot of Republicans that are going to vote Democratic this time, and you will stand a good chance. And so I want to thank you all also for stepping up to the plate for public service. This is not easy, people. Putting yourself out there. They talk about your hair. They talk about, how you look today. They talk about everything about you, but what you really want them to talk about is what you are able to do and what you're capable of doing. And that's what, that's where I come from. I'm not a politician. I'm you. I am a retired state employee that just got tired of not having the right things done. I'm doing this not because I have this burning desire to be lieutenant governor, but because I feel it's the right thing to do, and that I'm going to get in there and do so much good for North Carolina that if I don't get reelected again, it's going to take them 10 years to undo the good stuff that I did if it's a Trump person that comes in after me. So I want to let you know that, I know that y'all wanted me to talk about a couple of things today, in particular about food desert, but I want to give you a little bit about my background. For those of you who were not there it's been a year. It's been a year since I went, and that breakfast was marvelous. So right now I have to stick with just my Diet Coke and make that do this morning. But I am a child of the civil rights era. I earned every last one of these gray hairs over the years. And I also learned at an early age, I'm gonna give you a little story about me when I first started. I was 13 years old, and I entered one of the first wave of students to integrate the school system here in Raleigh. In that experience, I made cheerleader, and I was so excited about it. And then the next day I went to school, and it was awful. I was pushed, I was spat on, I was called names. It was just a bad day. The principal came up to me and said, "You are chewing gum and you must stay after school." And I said, "No, sir, I'm not chewing gum." "Yes, you are." But see, I was 13, so I didn't know how to digest this. So I said, "Okay, I will stay after school because maybe he's going to take the cheerleader away from me." I didn't know what was going to go on. He put me in a room in the very back of the school building. Well, usually when you stay after school in the principal's office. But I'm listening. Usually they keep you for an hour. An hour and a half later, he comes in the back and tells me I can go home. I get on and I walk home. It's about a mile and a half. And I'm walking and I see no cars. I see no cars. I see no people. I see nothing except for him following me about a block behind. And I'm wondering what's going on. The moment I got into my neighborhood, he turned and he left me. When I got home, the phone was ringing off the hook. It seems that the Klan had come to school that day. They weren't in hoods, but they were out there after school looking for me. This principal saved me. He wasn't sure if it was he had heard it was coming. He hid me in the back of the school and he was trying to protect me. So I really appreciated that. But then I learned that my being cheerleader wasn't about me having a fun year as being a cheerleader. It was going to be about being the best cheerleader I could because it was bigger than me. Because when would there be another African-American girl given that opportunity to be a cheerleader? So I'm telling you this because from that 7th grade experience to the 12th grade, I fought battles all at Inlow High School and made numerous friends working with learning the white kids learning about us. It was really diverse. But the good thing that came about it is by the time we graduated and we were an experiment, we were all quite close and quite tight. Well, when I got in the General Assembly, it was just like high school. It was them over there and us over here. And I learned early on the power that one has, the power that one vote has, one person has, can have an effect on many. And the importance of doing it for the bigger good. It is not about me. It's about the community of North Carolina. It's about urban and it's about rural and it's about making relationships and building them and getting things done. Now, and I'm mentioning all of this for a reason, because when I was in high school, how did I make these friends? I did it one at a time. My lab partner, the person that would sit next to me in another class, in gym class, when you could really talk, at lunchtime. You would talk one-on-one. And then when people realized that you weren't that thing that they had been trained to think you were, people opened up. So when I got in the General Assembly, it was the same way. I was able to reach across the aisle, and I don't vilify the person. I think they got a warped ideology, and it's my job to change it. But I don't vilify them as a person. And I try to see people because everybody wants to be seen for who they are. And this has taken me a long way. Before I ran, or while I was running, I lost 2 grocery stores in my community. And people were complaining there's no place to go get groceries now without driving across town. There were a lot of people having to take the bus, and then I found out I lived in what they call the food deserts. Hadn't heard of a food desert before. So when I got in the General Assembly, I felt like, well, maybe I'm in position, I could get a grocery store to come over there, So I started calling the grocery stores and working with them and trying to see if I can get one to come to the community. And they gave me like what I call 75% excuses. 25% could be legitimate reasons as to some of the viability of having these large stores in some of these communities. So I decided to put in a bill and see if I can incentivize some of the grocery stores to come in. And this is when the food desert bill came through. It was so bad, nobody even heard of a food desert because I hadn't prior to. So I had to educate both the House and the Senate on what a food desert was. And it's an area or community in an urban area like mine. It's 1 mile to 2 miles where you don't have access to nutrient foods. And in rural communities, it can be 25 to 30 miles before you have a grocery store or access to nutrient-rich foods. So this food desert thing, I found an NC State student who was doing his dissertation on it, and he had done all this research with maps of every county in North Carolina where the food deserts were, and he gave me his information. And I took pictures of every county and I began to see what I can do. So I began to lobby. and lobby to get this bill through for a grocery store, and I couldn't get anywhere. So I had to regroup and I had to strategize. They were only talking about businesses. They saw this as being a poverty program for hungry people, and they weren't voting for those kind of bills. So I made it about business. And that's where the corner store initiative came up. So let's see if we could make it go to commerce, and if we could get commerce to sponsor this bill and work it. Anyway, to make a long story short, they gave me a study bill. They tried to shut me up and gave me a study bill. And then they gave me this really small meeting room for us to have our meetings in. Well, the very first meeting, we had 75 people in the hall that couldn't fit into the room. So after that, we had the biggest meeting room. We had people from across the state coming because this was a real problem. The Republican chair, who they gave to chair the committee, said to me, "This is a problem." And I said, "Yes, that's what I'm trying to tell you, you know." And we began to educate and learn what was going on. Now, a good meeting is when nobody leaves the meeting, because what somebody on one side of the room heard somebody on the other side of the room say, and after the meeting, they were there for an hour and a half after every meeting we had, exchanging information, exchanging ideas, and trying to see what they can do and where we could get some low-hanging fruit. Out of this committee came the knowledge that North Carolina was not using a lot of the federal free lunch programs in the summertime. So as you all know, every county now has a program, and entities are doing the lunches in their districts for that. That came out of this committee, food insecurity, more than just a food desert, but food insecurity. Another thing that came out of it, we started with, okay, well, if we can't get the big grocery stores to come to us, how about let's see if we can bring some food to the small convenience stores, because we have those everywhere. So that's when the corner store initiative came out. I pushed it. I had every group that came into the General Assembly lobby for me, the healthcare people, just every group that came in wanted to see this bill go through. And they helped me lobby my colleagues in trying to get it. I got it to a point, and then I couldn't get it any further. Everybody knew what it was. Everybody thought it was a good idea, but I was a Democrat. They didn't want me to have that win. Well, this is what I learned when I was younger. I learned that it's not about me. It's about the people. And at times you have to take that ego and push it back in your head, and you have to say, okay, what am I going to do? So I walked across the aisle and I approached a female Republican who was vice chair of the Agriculture Committee. And I said, her name is Pat McElgraff, and I give her kudos. And Representative McElgraff, I said, here, I will let you have this, but we really need to get some money in this program. Well, Pat said, well, how about if we do this together? So I worked with her, and she was able to come up with the money to put in the budget to start the Corner Store Initiative. Now, you may not have one in your district. They still underfunded it, you know, and it's not as broad as we'd like for it to be, but it's a program that's working. And what has happened is that the majority of them have been placed in areas that got hit by these last hurricanes that lost grocery stores. So they're putting nutrient-rich foods into convenience stores. Now, this is something that doesn't need to be legislated, and that a local area can still do. You can go to your corner stores and say, listen, can the farmer down the street who has a stand, and he's trying to man a stand on the road to sell his products, can he do it out of here? You know, and he will give you a percentage of his profits, and he'll come in and make sure everything stays fresh, and, you know, he'll man it if he can. Well, that's collaboration. That's people working together to solve a problem. You know, on the coast, people have come up to me and said, we want to be able to sell shrimp and seafood in some of the stores. We're hoping to get to that point, but that requires a special kind of refrigeration and handling that we need to work on. But I'm telling you this because it is people working together. It is people caring about what is happening. I couch it as a business, an expansion of convenience stores, not a food thing to feed the poor, but it was access to food. So I don't care what you call it, as long as people get help. And that's why I decided to run for lieutenant governor. And now, also in the General Assembly, guess what we're having a problem with, people? Housing. Where I have 3,000 school-age children in hotels, you have people in trailers. You have families in trailers. Some of these trailers are even sick, where utilities, they spend more on utilities than they do in rent. And the environment is not healthy. The pandemic has brought the attention of all of this to a head. It has brought the fact that there are people who don't have access to food, housing, that minimum wage used to pay for one person to live. Now minimum wage, an hour isn't even a lunch in Raleigh. So you have to look at what's out there and what we have, and I'm fighting. That's why I've started a program called Ally, and we call it Affordable Living Initiative. It is housing security, food security and healthcare affordable. It is workforce development, job training, and living wages, and it's transportation, because if you can't get to work, you can't work. And these are all problems that I want to solve. How are you going to solve this? You're just going to be lieutenant governor. Well, you solve this by bringing people together. You bring the people together of Rowan County. You bring them in with the people from Mecklenburg County. You bring the people from Warren County. You bring the people from, I'm here in New Hanover County. Everybody together. You bring in public-private partnerships for nonprofits, the business community. You bring in legislators, Senate and House, Republican and Democrat, and let's see what North Carolina even has. There's no state agency that addresses housing, food. There's no state agency. DHHS dibbles and dabbles, and they do the food stamp program, which is a pass-through federal program, but they don't have an agency that looks out for North Carolinians. And this pandemic now, people are falling through the cracks like never before. And it's up to us. It's up to Democrats to do this, because the Republicans don't have the heart for it. We have to help people. And we have middle-class people now who are falling through the cracks. They've lost their jobs. Someone's been ill. One of the things we learned is we tie healthcare to employment. And in during the pandemic, when everybody's getting sick, they're losing their employment. So they no longer have health care. So our healthcare system is really taking a really big, even bigger hit, because they're serving people who don't have the resources to pay those astronomical bills for the COVID. We are also looking at, they stopped the money. The Fed stopped the $600 a week unemployment. So what's going to happen is there's going to be a line as soon as the courts open back up for evictions of people who aren't able to pay their rents because it didn't work. And the line is going to be long. We have to do some things to help people. We have to hold our elected officials accountable. We have to demand some support and help in areas of housing, food security, workforce development, and jobs. Now, let's talk about jobs a little bit. And this is where rural is really going to have a win. Another big issue that has come to forefront is that our lack of broadband. We all know that our school systems, especially in some of our rural counties and pockets across North Carolina, do not have good access. And we're learning that we need this access. And there are those in the General Assembly now that there's more and more talk about what we're going to do to try to bring broadband to our community so our kids can get educated, so things can begin to happen. But guess what else can happen? Currently right now, my daughter, who works in New York. Her job is saying they're not going back in probably till next spring because of the COVID. She's here in North Carolina working remotely by computer, like we're talking on a Zoom meeting now for her job. Well, you can now be in a real world community and get a job in Charlotte, get a job in New York, and you can work remotely because things are going to change. They're going to realize they don't need big offices all the time. They don't need people right there in the facility to do some good work. And we have wonderful people in our rural areas that can be trained and to do some of this. Now, lieutenant governors have three major responsibilities. First, we preside over the Senate. The second thing we do is we sit on the State Board of Education. We hold our superintendent of education accountable. We have a say in some of the policies that will educate our children. And I'm really delighted about that. That's K through 12. Well, they also sit on the State Board of Community Colleges. Now that is workforce development, that's job training. That's saying, okay, what jobs do we want North Carolinians to have? Let's see if we can have our community colleges set up to learn some of these things and get some of these job skills so that they can get some of these jobs. When these companies talk about, I'm coming to North Carolina, I'm bringing 1,500 jobs, don't bring 1,500 jobs, hire from North Carolina. And I mean more than just your low-level clerical or janitorial staff or low-level positions, and you bring your top people in. We understand you're going to bring some people in, but use our community college system, our UNC system, and our workforce development and train people to be here. Don't come to North Carolina to just be housed here. Come here to be a partner in our communities. Don't come and displace everybody because you need the housing. Come build new housing and make it better for everyone. Be a community partner. I feel like I'm on my preaching block, but I'm saying all of this is because there's so many things we can do. I was able to this time put 2 bills in since the COVID. One is, both of them are housing bills. One is to supplement for 6 months housing of people who got laid off and unable to pay their rent. And included in that was also a little stipend for utilities to take people for a 6-month period of time to ease that burden that they have for not being able to pay their rent. The other one is to give more money to the Housing Finance Agency so they can reinstitute their foreclosure program that keeps people for the same reason for losing their homes and being foreclosed on. These are important programs. Now I have them and I put them in. I tried to work across the aisle with them. They said, oh, we don't know, we're not sure about this. What did they do? They copied the bill. And they have put in their own housing bill, which basically does the same thing. The problem is that they have a whole lot more restrictions on who can qualify. But the House had the flavor for it, but the Senate does not. As your lieutenant governor, I already know the members of the House quite well, and I know how the House works. And my colleagues there respect me, and they understand that what I'm trying to do. If I win lieutenant governor, I will be on the Senate side, where I too will then lobby my colleagues on the Senate side to help them understand these needs, that we can then work together and get some of these bills through. Now, I know that you are all struggling in your communities right now, and God is with you, and know that your voices are not unheard. There are many of us in Raleigh who know what you're fighting, and we're trying to help you out. And your candidates that you have that are running for office are awesome. And if we can get them elected and take it back, take the House back for good Democrats and the Senate back with good Democrats, we can do some amazing things. We can make North Carolina even better than it was before, because we can fix these weaknesses. We can begin to serve all the people of North Carolina. We can stop pitting rural against urban. Republican against Democrat. I run from a district, but I represent everybody. And as your lieutenant governor, I will represent all of North Carolina. So I feel like I've talked too much, but I did want to come today and tell you a little bit about me and why I do what I do, and to try to get you motivated to think about some of the things in your county that you can do, and in that low-hanging fruit that does not require legislation, but just requires people talking to people. And let's start a movement. And as I say again, I'm not trying to be something, I'm trying to do something. Thank you.